What it do, cuckolds? It's your boy, the hater, up in this mug. You know what I'm saying? And before we get to Smackdown review, let's quickly go over some very quick wrestling news. A lot of people got released, apparently today or yesterday, whenever that was, right? Here's the list. The authors of Pain, Akam and Razar, obviously, as well as Paul Ellering, Cedric Alexander, Sonya Deville, who is one of the biggest jobbers of all time and clearly the head of one of the worst factions ever, Isla Dawn, Blair Davenport, Giovanni Vinci, and the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. At this point, Luke Gallows has been fired from this company like 19 times. But whatever, the hater wishes all these people, luck, and I hope to see them all again in some capacity on TV. But let's be real, none of this should surprise anyone, except for maybe Isla Dawn, because she was kind of a relatively big deal as a tag team champion. But everybody else was just complete garbage. Nobody cares at all about any of these people. Blair Davenport was never on TV. Giovanni Vinci just literally wasted time. Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows basically got paid for several years to do nothing. You know what I mean? They were just there. It helps to be friends with certain people, I guess. But anyways, the only one here that actually I feel bad about is Cedric Alexander, but we're not going to get too much into that. Now let's get to the Smackdown review, cucks. As usual, we're going to do this segment by segment. All right. So the show starts out, as usual, but let's skip forward to the part where basically it takes Jey Uso about 12 to 15 minutes to get to the ring. This is unacceptable, but the hater recognizes that this is basically the only thing that Jey Uso brings to the table. So obviously they have to maximize that. Jey Uso says he might challenge Cody. Cody comes out, you know what I mean? Cody said that, their friendship goes back, and their relationship goes back because, they were enemies, they were friends again, they were enemies again, whatever the case may be. Then Cody said that they had a libation or two. And that's the point where about 98% of the WWE audience went to Google what libation means because, let's be real, most of y'all's, not y'all's, maybe you guys are smart, but most of the WWE fans have no idea what that word is. If it's more than 2 syllables, the average wrestling fan has never heard of it before, So there you have it. Then, after this, Jacob Fat Poo and Tama Jabba come out. Tama Jabba says, shh. Then he says, yeah. I don't even know what the point of this happening is. It's really, really stupid. It's just stupid. It's not even cringe. It's straight up just stupid. Someone told him to say this. He thought it was cool. Remember that time when he got into a feud on Twitter with Enzo Amore, and he was trying to cut a promo on Enzo Amore. Enzo Amore would bury all the Samoans if it was literally every Samoan ever, except for of course The Rock, you know what I mean, versus Enzo Amore in a promo off. Enzo Amore would bury them all one by one, Jacob Fat Poo and Tama Jabba, in my opinion, have no business being here. But nevertheless, there they are, right? They talk all this shit, basically. And, Jacob Fatu says that last year, my family had the world title. What are you talking about? Last year, you were in all equilibre wrestling, or whatever the hell he was. You know what I mean? Wrestling some jabron that nobody ever heard of, He talks, and, the way he talks, as well as his appearance, reminds me a lot of Fat Joe the rapper. I don't know why. He also has the same level of intimidation factor as Fat Joe the rapper. I understand they're trying really hard, man. They're trying really hard to push over Jacob Fatu, a balding, overweight 30-some-year-old who has no muscles at all. They're trying to push this guy over as if he's intimidating, but I think he's one of the least intimidating, quote-unquote, intimidating guys out there, right? In the sense that they tried to make him seem as intimidating, but this is the lowest level, You could take someone like Heidenreich, let's say, right? And you could say this guy's intimidating because look at him. You know what I mean? You could take Obafemi and it's oh, he's intimidating. Look at him, right? Then you could take obviously Brock Lesnar, Lashley, Kane, even Luke Gallows, right? You could be oh, these guys are intimidating because they're big and strong looking, right? Jacob Fatu is not big. They say he's 280 pounds, he's not. He's at most 235, 240. This guy has no muscle mass whatsoever. I mean, he was able to hold up those two cruiserweights, but honestly, that's not even that big of a deal. That's less impressive than Jordan Grace picking up fucking Piper Niven, fat bastard over there. You know what I'm saying? She has the same accent as fat bastard. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. They come out. They try to beat each other up. Jay and Cody get the best of them because, let's be real, these two other guys are tag team jobbers. Then they show Bianca and Naomi, who need to be released. I don't understand how these girls made it past the release thing. Like, they're the current tag team champions, but one of my fans put in one of the comments, they're like, Bianca Belair has been given every opportunity this year. You know, like, literally. Like, every time there's time to qualify for something, she's always there, you know? She's always, like, there in the Intercontinental title tournament or whatever, right? She's there in the Elimination Chamber, in the Rumble. It's like this girl's had every opportunity that a woman could have had this year and has converted on none of them. This is an abject failure of a year for Bianca Belair. And then later on, Joe Tessitore says she's like a 95 or a 96 in like the new WWE game. It's just absurd, you know? But that's neither here nor there. We'll move on with that later. Then we have a match that's made. Carmelo Hayes versus Tozawa is made for tonight in the office. We have a typical, you know, Carmelo Hayes, what's his name? Nick Aldis segment, where Nick Aldis reveals an opponent for Carmelo. It's going to be Tozawa. Nobody's going to care. Then, this is where it gets weird. DIY come out and they start cutting a promo. I don't know who thought this was a good idea. You know, they're actually not complete trash on the mic, but because they're so boring, you know, overall, like the overall package of DIY is just completely boring. This represents a new low until you hear, yes, boy. You know what I'm saying? Pretty Deadly come out. I like Pretty Deadly. They're basically like kind of like faces now because their whole thing is like, hey, like you said you'd help us, but you haven't done shit, right? And which is true. So this leads to a match. Nick Aldis comes out, makes a match between these two teams, like right now, right? So Gargano and Ciampa are there in their street clothes, and Pretty Deadly come out. Pretty Deadly win. They win with like a roll-up, you know, holding the ropes, which is appropriate considering that they are wrestling the tag team champions. But Pretty Deadly, I think, is one of the better tag teams in the sense that they actually feel fresh. Their win feels good. It got like a pretty big pop from the fans. Whereas, for example, you have all these other teams that clearly have no idea what they're doing. Like, Pretty Deadly at the very least, you know, I don't know much about them. It's not like I've followed their careers. But Pretty Deadly are clearly entertainers. You know what I mean? Like, these two guys, I mean, they look like legit wrestlers because they're tall and they got muscles. But, like, realistically, it's like I feel like they really are entertainers first, right? You know? Whereas, like, a lot of the other wrestlers are just failed athletes. You know? And as we've seen before, failed athletes are boring. More on that later, motherfuckers. I'm going to compare this to something else that we see a little bit later. Then we get, you know, your weekly Miz and Andrade segment. I don't understand what the fuck Andrade is trying to say, and I have no interest in trying to figure it out. It shouldn't be up to me to try to interpret what Andrade is saying. How about Andrade learn the 6 words he has to say? Fucking learn 6 words a week, motherfucker. You have to say like 2 lines. It should be perfect. You know, if the hater was signed by like, I don't know, all Kazakhstan wrestling, right, and I had to move to Kazakhstan, and I had to cut promos, I would be like, I would have mastered the Kazakh language by now. You know what I mean? Like, cause it's a job requirement. But Andrade refuses to. Nevertheless, he says his 6 lines of the week, and that's his contribution. That's his paycheck right there. After this, Cucky Rhodes appears, and The Miz says he and Cucky are old school. And this just reminds the hater of a time when The Miz would just beat Cody Rhodes in like 2 minutes. You know, when The Miz was like champion and Cody Rhodes was a jobber. When they were both of a reasonable age. You know what I mean? Like when they were both starting out, it's like nobody saw anything in Cody and they saw the world in Miz. But now they're older, so it's like, it's basically like Miz had his turn, now it's Cody's turn. There was a point where The Miz was a 90 or a 91 on WWE 2K and Cody Rhodes was like a 72. And now we have to switch the roles for some reason. I don't know why, nothing's changed, but that's what happened, right? Then Cody basically says, like, yo, I don't need your help, Miss, whatever, who cares, right? Drew McIntyre then comes out, and this is like where we now see a kind of a switch in the show and why the hater is really focusing now on what is and is not entertaining. Drew McIntyre is pretty much lost in the woods. Let's be real. The character of Drew McIntyre is dead. You know, he needs to be released again and then come back in a few years if he wants to have a chance. Because now his character is entering what I'm going to start calling the Street Profits phase, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later when the relevant segment involving the Street Profits is discussed on this channel, right? But basically, Drew McIntyre says he will always be, he basically has never been allowed on Raw to be, Drew McIntyre, right? But now that he's on SmackDown, he's known Nick Aldis forever, and now Drew will be allowed to be the Drew that he wanted to be always. So he's basically doing like a, oh, I wasn't really trying gimmick, aka the now I'm taking it serious gimmick, right? The Street Profits, like, philosophy, right? It's like suck until like, it's intolerable, then come back and say, oh, now I'm going to take it seriously. That's what Drew McIntyre did here. In my opinion, it's a complete disaster, but basically that's the entire point. He's basically saying that like, now you're going to see the real Drew McIntyre, and he's going to act the exact same way as he's acted since literally day one in his career, at least since the return. He's been perfectly consistent, and he's going to continue to do the same shit. But now it's like, I'm a new Drew McIntyre. And then when he fails to do anything meaningful on SmackDown, just like he failed to do anything meaningful on Raw, really, this last year at least, he's going to go back to Raw and say, wow, Nick Aldis held me back. Now I'm going to be the real Drew. And this is the kind of shit that people are cheering and hoping that he wins the Royal Rumble. You know what I mean? But there you have it. I mean, it is what it is. Anyways, from all of that, we basically get to a point where Big Jimmy Uso comes out and talks like he was raised in Trenton, New Jersey. He's a pussy from Florida. I don't want to hear these Florida guys act like they're tough guys. Like, you grew up with palm trees around you, and with money. And they're like, oh, we had all these struggles. Like, what struggles do you have? Like these are people that don't have struggles, but they think that struggles can give you identity, right? It's like they're just losers. Let's be real. The Usos, and definitely Jacob Fatu, were never picked first in anything, right? They're just these three fat, like, quasi-athletic guys. Roman Reigns, probably, not really him either, because, like, I've seen photos of him, like, in college and stuff, and he was a fat bastard, too, So, like, he's just definitely, like, bloomed late. So these are just people that have had no identity, right? And I see this a lot, you know what I mean? Like, the haters spent a lot of time in Jersey, especially when I was in law school. And I see people with what I call lost identity syndrome. It's people that they don't know how to act, right? So, for example, a lot of, like, in Jersey, there's a lot of Indians. A lot of Indian people live in Jersey. And they all act like they're black when they're with each other. Then black people show up, and then they start acting normal. It's really, really odd. You know what I mean? Like, it's like they kind of feel like this, like, simpatico with being, having problems, I guess, and having a struggle that they've just manufactured in their head, The hater has, like, not a friend, but, like, a classmate, and I recently found him on Instagram. And this is just like a random story. He's like Vietnamese or some shit, right? And, like when he was in high school, he was like a regular dude. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't like the most popular kid, but he wasn't a loser either. He hung out with like a lot of people. Nobody ever bothered him. Now on Instagram, this guy's like, when I was in high school, people would bother me and bully me because of my race. No, they didn't. I was there the whole time. Nobody ever said anything for him. But people like him want to have a struggle, right? They don't have anything else going on. So like a struggle makes it worth it, right? Big Jim is exactly like that, especially now, considering that his brothers completely eclipsed him in every way, shape, or form. Then LA Knight comes out. Now, LA Knight does something that the hater does too. He has to sanitize what he's going to say because you never know what kind of sensitive bitch boys are listening to my videos, right? So LA Knight says, look, if you have like problems as a man, you're not less of a man if you cry. The hater doesn't agree. The hater believes that if you do cry, you are less of a man, and that's fine. Some people are manlier than others. Deal with it. You don't get to just like act like a little bitch and then be like, I'm just as manly as you. No, you're not. You know what I'm saying? So, basically, LA Knight wants to say that, but he can't because then some crybaby retard who's watching like My Little Pony and then wrestling afterwards, like this guy might be like, I'm going to kill myself because LA Knight insulted me. This is the world we live in now, Just like there's like one of my quote unquote exposed fans that he's like, oh, I'm going to sue you like for defamation or for libel. He doesn't even know what libel is. Like, he has no idea what he's talking about. You can't sue me for that because everything I said is an opinion, dumbass, or a truth. So anyways, But he thinks he's going to sue me, right? And it's like, he's basically like a butthurt fan. He like, I said something he didn't like, and now he's butthurt, and like he wants to take it out on me, but he's probably suffering from some sort of like, I don't know, like I guess like let down syndrome. He just feels let down by the hater, but it's the same thing here. In order to like take care of like the fans that might be insulted by LA Knight saying that, LA Knight has to sanitize it, but nevertheless, the point comes across. Basically, LA Knight says that Drew McIntyre cries a lot, which is 100% right. Every couple of months, you see this guy with tears in his eyes. Like, LA Knight, the reason why LA Knight is cool, and why he's cooler than people like Jey Uso or Drew McIntyre or CM Punk, is that aside from him and Braun Breaker, like, nobody in this company feels like a real man. You know what I mean? They're all a bunch of weirdos or pussies, right? It's just like you have like Jey Uso crying. You have CM Punk worrying about a bracelet, right? You have Drew McIntyre worrying about how his friends weren't there for him. You know what I mean? Like, I'm fucking tired of this shit, How about give us some manly characters? The only ones that actually act like real men are LA Knight and Braun Breaker. Everybody else acts like a little bitch. You know, you have like Jacob Fatu like shaking like Boogeyman for no reason. I love you, Solo Sikoa. Like, it's just a bunch of retards, you know? So it's like you can't get behind them. But LA Knight basically says, I'm tired of you crying, Drew. Then he says he's going to give them both 3 the hard way. You know what I mean? Triple threat match. Drew versus Big Jim, Jimmy Uso, and LA Knight. The winner goes on to the Chamber. Drew McIntyre wins with essentially a botched situation. LA Knight's about to do the BFT. Drew McIntyre kicks him in the back of the head, and the idea was he's supposed to bring Big Jim down. Kind of LA Knight's fault, but it is what it is. Drew McIntyre pins LA Knight. I don't like that. You know, now the way I'm counting it is like this. The Chamber has 6 spots. One of them is Cena, who is neither a Raw nor a SmackDown guy. So it should be 2 Raw and 2 SmackDown guys. And then, of course, we have the Last Chance Battle Royal. You know, I don't think it should be Sami Zayn now that we know what he's going to do. So I'd be cool with LA Knight winning the Last Chance Battle Royal that I'm predicting and making it to the Chamber anyways. Nevertheless, that's how that goes down, cucks. Then we get like a backstage segment. It's basically like the segment is just to establish that next week it'll be Damian Priest versus Jacob Fatu versus Braun Strowman. And Braun Strowman says, yo, you're going to have to wrestle 2 big guys next week. And it's like, no. Like, Damian Priest and Braun Strowman are big guys, and Jacob Fatu is a regular dude. He's like a 6 foot, they say he's 6'2", he's probably like 6 foot. He's just a 6 foot fat guy, right? He's a regular guy completely, you know what I mean? Like, he's like smaller than Cena, like, who has been presented as a regular guy throughout his entire tenure. Like, Cena was never presented as like a big guy. He's just a good wrestler and really strong, but he's never presented as like a super heavyweight. But Jacob Fatu is, for some reason, even though John Cena would literally murder him in seconds, would outlift him in any lift possible, right? And of course, is probably a tougher guy because Jacob Fatu looks like the type to say, I love you, Solo Sikoa. Anyways, more on that later, cucks. Then we see like a little segment. It's Owens saying he's jealous, and he calls Sami Zayn a horrible friend. In this case, he's largely right. You know, Sami Zayn didn't act like a good friend to Kevin Owens, but he did act like a good friend to, even to Cody Rhodes, but to Roman Reigns, right? The idea is that Kevin Owens never has anybody actually help him in matches anymore, you know, but Sami Zayn's out there helping, like, Roman Reigns both when he was a heel and when he was a face, you know? So, like, basically Kevin Owens is like, why don't you help me out, bro? Like, Cody Rhodes, like, fucking pile drove me through a ladder. I could have died, you know? That's his philosophy, right? So that's why he's mad at Sami Zayn. Now, he's right, but this doesn't change the fact that nobody could possibly give a flying fuck about this match or this storyline. I honestly hope that one of them gets fired because, like, I don't want to see this storyline even play out. I don't want to see this next segment on Raw. And as we saw, WWE is firing people left and right. And some of the people that were fired, in my opinion, are better than Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, namely Cedric Alexander, but let's move on. Charlotte Flair comes out. Charlotte Flair, more like Charlotte Bear. What the fuck is wrong with this girl? I had to look up how old she was. She's apparently 38. She looks like she's 55. Like, no exaggeration. She looks like one of those fit grandmothers. You know? Like those grandmothers that try to, like, look young. So they do, like, Pilates and shit. And they're all, like, lean and muscular. But they're grandmothers. They look like they're 55 because they're 55. Charlotte looks like that, you know? She looks good in the sense that her physique is, like, on point. Like, she looks very athletic, you know? She's believable in terms of, like, someone that can kick someone's ass in the category of women. But, quite frankly, I don't really give a shit about that at all because I don't care about women's wrestling. So there you have it. You know what I mean? She comes out and does the same shit as she did on Monday. This time, like, she says people are obsessed with her. But I don't think anybody cares at all about women's wrestling. This is a complete disaster. Like, you know, she's like, everyone's obsessed with me. I'm like, I wish I wasn't watching this right now. I swear to God. I'm like, I want nothing to do with this. If there were, like, you know, if someone said, hater, you have 2 options. Cancel women's wrestling for the next 10 years or don't cancel women's wrestling, I would cancel it. I would cancel it immediately. Like, enough of this shit. It didn't work out. It's not entertaining at all. All the characters are the same. And to prove this point, Tiffany Stratton comes out and she basically says the same thing that everyone's thinking, right? That Tiffany Stratton is the next Charlotte Flair because they're both blonde, they're both athletic, and they're both unattractive. Those are the 3 comparisons. She also comes out looking like a fucking horse. You know, like, just hire some good-looking women. It's not that hard. Hire some good-looking women. You know, all I could think of was they need to take a tube and take some of the fat from Tiffany Stratton and put it into Charlotte and balance out these broads because one of them is a little overweight and the other one is, like, erroneously underweight. I didn't enjoy this at all. Basically, she says, it's my time now. You know, like, nothing really crazy happened there. Then eventually, a bunch of grown men start chanting Tiffy time, which really should tell them a lot about who they are. Anyways, Charlotte basically buries her verbally. She's basically like, yo, I'm pretty much too good for you, so like you have to beg for me to choose you, like, which is exactly what Tiffany Stratton was already doing. But now Charlotte Flair's saying, like, actually, like, get on your hands and knees and beg, right? And then Nia Jax comes out, and this is the problem. That's why a lot of people are dumbasses. They're like, oh, you know, it shouldn't have been Jey Uso. The whole idea is like Jey Uso is someone that doesn't need to be begged to be, you know, to have the other person choose them, right? Jey Uso is the B-side. He's the challenger, right? Whereas in this case, Charlotte Flair is the favorite. You know what I mean? Like, I would expect Charlotte Flair to be the favorite. She might lose to Rhea Ripley. I mean, I don't think anybody gives a rat's ass, but she's still the favorite. Anyways, there you have it. Then Nia Jax comes out, but the only reason for Nia Jax to come out isn't really for her to cut her 3-word promo. It's to have Candice LeRae there. Candice LeRae is there, and, you know, next we have Candice LeRae versus Alexa Bliss. Now, obviously, Alexa Bliss is going to win. And here you have another person, according to the haters, dumbass fans. Not the smart fans, but the dumbass contingent of my fans. Oh, they don't deserve it. Like, you know, Alexa Bliss, all she did was lose the Rumble. And then now she's, like, already in the Elimination Chamber. She hasn't wrestled in, like, a year and a half. She's been, or longer even. So who the hell knows? Basically, Alexa beats Candice with the Compass Rose, which is now called the Abigail DDT. This means that Ludwig Kaiser needs to find a new finishing move, or perhaps even better would be to just get Ludwig Kaiser and just fire his ass, you know what I mean? Just release this jobber who contributes nothing, right? Then, during the match, it should be noted, there were some Wyatt 6 technical difficulties, so there you go. We have to look forward to that. Are they going to get her or not? Like, who the fuck cares? I mean, the Wyatt 6, I'm honestly shocked that they didn't get released, you know what I mean? Maybe because they just signed new contracts, I guess it's too early, but like, they should have gotten released with, like, AOP. They will be soon enough, don't worry. Anyways, that happened. Before we go into like, the commercial, we see, like, a segment with Chelsea Green. She's surrounded by a bunch of horses. You know what I mean? A bunch of, like, ugly-ass women. Let's be real. A bunch of ugly-ass women just appear saying random shit. They're B-Fab, Michin. They both look like shit. You know what I mean? Piper Niven needs to obviously lose like 150 pounds. And then the worst one is Zelina Vega comes out. She's got these like weird piercings on her face. She looks like one of these like neoliberals. It was really stupid. It's like and these girls are not like terrible looking normally. They just need to like be normal. They'll just be normal. Like B-Fab has like fake red dreads or whatever braids, red dreads that go down to her ass. How about have a normal haircut? You know, Michin dresses like she works at fucking Hot Topic. You know, and then you got like Zelina Vega coming out, like she's like 5'1", you know, not even. She's probably like 4'10". She comes out there, she's just wearing this thing that shows off her abs, right? But then her face is drawn on like a pixie. It's very fucking weird, you know. Chelsea Green's like the only normal woman in this company. But anyways, it is what it is. That's how that went down. Then we get another little tidbit. Tessitore says that the tag team main event, which will be Cucky and Jey Uso versus Tama Jabba and Jacob Fat Poo, he basically says it's a dream match. This isn't even like an opening match. This is a match that like I don't want to see at all, let alone a dream match. Nobody in this match is exciting, you know? Whatever. Before the match starts, though, you know there's going to be like 15, 20 minutes of commercials and other shit before the match starts. We get like a pre-taped vignette from the Street Profits. It's complete garbage. Basically, they will be released within the next 2 years for sure, and they're doing a we're fed up gimmick. Basically, they're doing the same thing they did when they decided to side with Lashley. They're like, oh, we're done being goofs. We're going to start winning now, right? And then they failed at winning completely. They had one of the worst runs in history. Then they became like the fun-loving Street Profits once Lashley left again. That failed miserably as well. And now they're back to being serious Street Profits, which is, I don't even care if it succeeds. They are not a good tag team, and they are not an asset to this company, right? There's nothing about them that's entertaining. Now, I know that some of the lower intellect fans, generally speaking, like to have, you know, goofy-ass people on TV, and that's fine. I shouldn't say the low intellect fans, because even the hater likes that sometimes. But, like, you know, this idea of, like, Montez Ford dancing and, like, their goofy-ass music, which is very similar to the SmackDown theme, except the difference is, like, this is how stupid these songs are. You know, the SmackDown theme is like 1, 2, 3, 4, da 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 da, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's just like it's the most retarded shit ever. It's just people counting. But the Street Profits music is Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And it's like, shut the fuck up, man. None of this is cool at all. Like, I'm tired of people giving us fake cool people like Montez Ford, and if people being like, Montez Ford has massive charisma. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. There's a lot I could say here from a sociological perspective, but I'll leave it at that because we don't have all day. Montez Ford is a dork, right? Montez Ford is just another guy with tattoos who they're trying to use to sell the concept of, oh, look how cool black people are, right? But there's far cooler black people. Like, for example, like Elijah Burke is cooler, right? Lashley is cooler. MVP is cooler. Shelton Benjamin is cooler than Montez Ford. Then we got Angelo Dawkins, who is in the running with Brock Anderson and Eric Rowan as the least cool people of all time. I mean, this guy's just like, I don't even know how this guy's made it through the cuts. You know, like my philosophy is this, that they probably wanted to fire Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, but they're like, fuck it, we'll keep it so we can make Bianca Belair happy, because if it weren't for the fact that Montez is married to her, I think they'd be gone. You know what I mean? They'd be gone, and they'd already have joined like the Hurt Syndicate by now with Cedric Alexander. They'd be gone. They don't add anything to this company. You know, the Street Profits haven't done anything meaningful in like 5 years. And this is all on the backdrop of, remember when Montez Ford qualified for the U.S. titles Elimination Chamber? And then he did like one big move. People were like, this guy's the future. And I was like, no, he's not. This guy's going to fucking suck ass. He's going to achieve nothing. And it's exactly what's happened. Once again, the hater's right. But anyways, as you're going to see when Jey Uso has this big moment and people like lose their minds, which they already have been doing. Anyways, whatever. Let's move on. Then we get a small segment between Motor City Machine Guns and Legado del Jobber. Basically, the entire point is, we're next. No, we are. Who gives a fuck? Jacob Fatu and Tama Jabba, Jacob Fat Poo and Tama Jabba are now going to wrestle Cucky and Jay. Jay and Cucky obviously get their own entrances, but they also get their own segment. So Jey Uso does his entrance for the second time of the night, then we get a commercial, then we get Cucky's entrance, and then Fat Poo and Tama come out to like a boring-ass entrance, right? Long story short, the match is pretty back and forth. It's exactly what you would expect in most cases, but like basically, the idea is that, especially Tama Jabba, but even Jacob Fatu, like they're not of the caliber of obviously the WWE champion and the Royal Rumble winner. So basically, in the past, Jacob Fatu wouldn't sell super kicks. This time, Jey Uso super kicks him, goes back into the ring, does a tope suicida, wipes him out. Then that leaves Cucky Rhodes and undercard nobody, Tama Tonga in the ring. So I wonder what's going to happen here. Here's what happens. Crossroads, 1, 2, 3. Cody Rhodes starts celebrating, kind of, and then all of a sudden, I love you, Solo! Solo Sikoa appears out of nowhere. This was done poorly because he came up facing camera side with a hoodie on, right? But like, as he was coming up, it was like, oh shit, there goes Solo Sikoa. So there was no like element of surprise at all. Furthermore, he did the Samoan Spike. So obviously it's Solo Sikoa. Furthermore, even if he didn't do all these things, it probably would still be Solo Sikoa. So he just does the Samoan Spike on Cody. And then like, the show just ends basically. Like he does it with like 10 seconds left. And Tessitore is like, Solo's back. Or one of them. I forget if it was either Wade or Tessitore. One of them was like, he's back. Like with no excitement whatsoever. And then the other one tries to get exciting, but it wasn't fun, you know? And it wasn't this big deal. It's like, of course he's going to come back. Like we knew he was going to come back. He hasn't been gone for 3 years. He came back and he attacked Cody Rhodes. So maybe they can have a match. I don't know. And quite frankly, I don't give a flying fuck. But, you know, Solo Sikoa in this like new WWE, he's there. And for better or for worse, he has been wrestling a lot this year, you know, like until his like recent break. So it's like, you know, I don't want Jacob Fatu to take Solo Sikoa's spot. Jacob Fatu needs to have, you know, needs to be on the Jacob Fatu spot. Like Solo Sikoa needs to have his own spot back, which is this like, I don't want to say an upper mid-carder, but like that's what he is effectively, right? Because like Solo Sikoa can and has main evented several pay-per-views, you know? So I believe that like, you know, if Jey Uso is like the face version of the only person that worked this year, then Solo Sikoa has to be the heel version of that same character. Now, strangely enough, they're both Samoans and brothers, and they both have the same moveset. But it doesn't change the fact that Solo Sikoa has actually busted his ass. He's actually tried to do things, you know? Now, he's not the best at it, but he tries hard, right? Same thing with Jacob Fatu. Like that's why I can't hate Jacob Fatu. Like I think he's overrated, and I think he's booked improperly because they book him like he's like the Superman. But it's basically like the entire Jacob Fatu being like Superman thing is just like, trust me, bro. That's what it is. It's like, oh, trust me. Like he's gonna take a finisher and just get up. Why? Oh, he's just built different. You know? none of this translates to his appearance or anything else in his character? Yeah, but just trust us, bro. Like, he's just built different. So, that's been your SmackDown review. You know, a lot of releases. The SmackDown was not a good episode, but it wasn't complete garbage, I suppose. But I'd give it like a 1 out of 10, you know what I mean? Let's be real. It wasn't complete garbage. I'll give it a 2 out of 10, because at the very least, the world champion, Cody Rhodes, and the Royal Rumble winner wrestled tonight, right? You can't say the same thing about CM Punk. Actually, he wrestled on Monday too, right? So you gotta give props where props are due. You know, Gunther hasn't wrestled in like 3 months, so there you have it. You know, like Nakamura has like his entire like coming back run and becoming U.S. champion has been like, I think, 3 matches. You know, like, it's unacceptable that these people even have jobs, but that's how that is, and that's how that's gonna be. So I gotta give props to Cody and Jey Uso for wrestling, especially Jey Uso. Cody too, right? But especially Jey Uso, because at the end of the day, Jey Uso could just like be like, oh, I'm not gonna wrestle until the Rumble, you know, until the Elimination Chamber, until Mania, right? That's a very common thing. You know what I mean? A very common thing. Like Cody Rhodes, for example, he won the Rumble. He didn't wrestle until basically WrestleMania. You know, so you gotta give props where props are due. Now, with that being said, take care of yourselves and go fuck your mothers, motherfucks.